questions here in a second. Hold on. Hi.
Where'd it go?
I
You
I
got all the way down there and didn't have tea?
no, I rolled it. You didn't see it?
No, I missed that. Certainly not here, sir.
You fixed it.
Thank you. Yeah. Hi, welcome back to my class.
Look, Maddie, the stickers and mustache.
Yeah, he did leave our homework out.
I'm sorry. I did it. That's all I know.
No, he did.
Yes, I actually did.
Kinsey, what's up?
Okay. So we'll start going through these here.
You're standing in the building and I was walking in. And I'm so confused.
To the ground? Wow. Garrett got something to the ground?
No, I bought you something.
You just said it.
Alright.
We got screwed.
So we're gonna go through questions. That you guys caught on this.
I would rather have that.
You'd rather what?
You'd rather have our back than the sophomore's back.
Because you trash talk this and you know you're
I
wrong.
wasn't there for the design of the t-shirt.
You know the juniors are better than you.
Okay,
Well, you was.
so let's talk about these two, you guys. So 8 and 9 here. So, hey guys, I need to stop talking. So 8 and 9, for 8, you can just eliminate the n's right away. However, you have to be careful as you guys do this because n minus n is 0, but m plus m is 2m. So I don't know if you just called that m. And then 5 and 6 is m is 11. So m ends up being 5.5. And then once I know m, I have to put that back in. And there's our m. Now 9's a little trickier because 9 you can't just multiply by just one value. If I multiply the bottom row by something, I can't make the 4 become a 5 other than using decimals. And I can't make the 3 become a 5 other than using decimals. So we actually have to multiply both by something. So looking at 5 and 4 are either 5 and 3, what's a common multiple we could use? You could use 15. So I'd like to use like a 15y and like a negative 15y here. So in order to make 3y into 15, I multiply it by 5. And then in order to make 5y into 15, I multiply by 3, but I put the negative there. And sorry, we should have had one of these in our homework or our notes. I don't think we did. So we're going to distribute that in. 25x 15y equals 0, 0 times 5. Down here it's a negative 12x, a negative 15y, and then a negative 39, negative 3 times 13. And now those 15y's get to cancel. 25 minus 12 is 13x. 0 minus 39 is a negative 39. So then I can divide by 3, or 13, sorry. And I find out that x would be negative 3. Once I know x, then I can substitute that back in to find my y value. So like I put it in here. 4 times negative 3 plus 5y equals 13. So I get 5y equals 25. So y ends up being 5. So I'm gonna go down to number 21 and 23, it looks like. Alright, so 21. Hopefully you guys realize there's something that'd be easier to multiply by in this case to make something cancel. So I look at 1 and 2 or 3 and 11 and avoid the 3 and 11. So this could become what? What would I like this to become here? A negative what? Negative 2. So I'm going to multiply the whole top row by negative 2. Because that'll make that x a negative 2x. But when I do that, I have to multiply all three parts by negative 2. So that'll become a positive 6y, and then there'll be a positive 24. I can't forget to distribute it everywhere. So this is going to end up being 17y, and this actually ends up being 17, right? So y is 1. And once I know y is 1, then I can substitute it back in. And it doesn't matter where I put it back in. So x is negative 9. Alright. 23 is kind of a big pain here again because I have to multiply both equations by something. Because 4 and 3, like one can't become the other through multiplication. 5 and negative 2, same thing. But since this one's already negative, I guess I would lean more towards that. Does that sound okay? I already have a positive and negative. So 5 and 2 can both become what? And 5 and 2 both, what are they multiples of?
10.
Or what's their multiple? Yeah, 10. So we're going to multiply the top row by 2, the bottom row by 5. Because that'll make it a positive 10q and a negative 10q. Yeah, that'd be 170, I think. Anyone do that? And I'm trusting my mental math isn't the smartest thing. So this is 184. So I'm going to divide by 23. Is that 8? I'm going to do that. Someone help me. I think it's 8, but apparently math isn't really a calculator.
Yeah.
It's 8, okay, thank you. It's just a good guess based off the type of numbers we have there. All right, then once I know P, then I have to substitute that back in to find Q. So like if I put it back in, and Q ends up being negative 5. All right, let's go to 27. And these I might start getting to the point now where I'm just, I don't know, among my decimals, but. Oh, they let you use either substitution or elimination. Do you guys read those directions? Yeah.
No.
I bet some of them are set up one way or the other. Okay. So 27, I would probably use elimination because of the fact it's all nice and lined up. So I see 3x and 1x, so I'm going to multiply this one by a -3. I'm going to rewrite the top equation. I like them lined up, so I'm going to the bottom. So this one's a decimal, that way you have to put it. So this is a -16y, and then that's 8. So I divide by -16, it actually is just a -1/2 or -0.5. Once I know that, substitute it back in. It's going to be a decimal as well. Then positive 0.5. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So again here, I would probably use elimination. Everything's nice and lined up. But I look at that 5 and 7, and those numbers are pretty big and not very nice. But 2 can become 6 by multiplying by 3. So I'm going to multiply that top row by a -3. And there's some big numbers here, so it's totally understandable that I had some issues there with that. There's -6p, a positive 15q, and then multiply here, it's going to be a positive 159. This is 22q. That'll be 198. So what does Q end up being? Nine. Oh yeah.
Yeah, 9.
And then once I know what Q is, I'm going to substitute that back in. I'm not going to do that now. I hope once you got your Q right, you're okay. Really for all of these, well, 31 is the only one I'd use a substitution for, but. So on this one, does anyone remember who asked for 30? You did? Do you, like, which way did you try, did you multiply by something?
Yeah.
What did you multiply by?
Well, I didn't know that you could multiply the top and bottom.
Oh, so did you multiply by a decimal?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I should have done an example like that. So what jumps out at you to multiply by on this one? What would you want to make? Either the U's 6's or the V's 15? What do you think? 6. So we're going to multiply the top by 2, the bottom by -3 to get the positive and negative U. And yeah, I realized after we finished notes that I didn't have any like that in there, so my fault. So this one actually works up nicely. So 19b, and then this is 0. So b ends up being just 0. And then I can substitute that in by x. And then 31 is actually one I would do substitution for. So hopefully you noticed the directions and thought that since I didn't tell you not to follow the directions, the default should be that you follow directions unless I tell you otherwise. All right, so this one I would use substitution for 31. So the reason for that is because there's already a y alone. So why do any kind of moving around if I don't have to? So the y is already alone, it's 5x plus 37. That's going to go in place of y. So I substitute that in place of y. So the 11, I think. Oh. Negative 13x. What is that? 91. That make that negative 7. Is that right? Yeah. And once I know x, then I can substitute it back in to find y. So what I think will be helpful for us is to do some more practice of this before we start our new stuff today. So around the room, and I'm going to put some in the hallway, we did these in like algebra or geometry, depending on what class you had before. You solve the problem, and then based off the answer, you go to a different question. So it's kind of like a little maze that should take you around to 10 separate questions. Now, they suggest you use elimination or substitution depending on the situation. There is also graphing. If you don't want to graph, you could just solve it by whatever method you want. I'm okay with that if you want to choose something other than graphing. Otherwise, I do have graph paper here. So you can start at whatever question you want. I'll put 3 in the hallway down there. Just make sure you're quiet by Ms. Hoffman's room. But just so that you guys can move around and be separated. So there's 10 questions throughout the space. Like I said, I'll put 3 in the hallway. You just start with whatever question you want. I ask you guys kind of travel in small groups here. And then once you solve it, then it'll tell you where to go next. So like number 7, if I solve it and I think the answer is A, I would go to station 9. And that's going to be in the hallway. So they go, one's going to be over there, it goes around this way, 7, and then 8, 9, and 10 will be in the hallway. So, again, if you want to graph, you can. Otherwise, if it says solve by graphing, feel free to use whatever method you want. And if you finish correctly, you should go through all 10 questions. If you have less than 10 questions, you've done something wrong. And you can work in small groups. I don't want you guys all traveling together. If you guys want a whiteboard as kind of like a clipboard, you can go ahead and do that. Those of you guys online, I'm going to pause you guys for a while.
So. And go. No.
Oh, let me put those ones in the